globalization is good. Adam Smith was right 450 odd years ago. Okay, deglobalization is bad, populism is bad, nationalism is bad. All isms, other than capitalism, are bad. Isms are not good. Ferris Bueller was right. And so that was the first problem. Then the second problem was the Fed back then, which had just been created, the creature from Jekyll Island in 1913, raised rates and turned a garden variety recession into the Great Depression. The worst year in the stock market was not 1929, it was 1931. We are on pace to have the worst year in history now, other than 1931, and probably exceed 1931. The 60-40, to Raoul's point, is the worst in all of market history. 140 years, never been a worse 60-40. So everything's, in fact, I put out a tweet Friday, said breaking, everything. And then literally on Sunday, what do? The UK says, keep calm, we'll print more. And they saved the pension system in Britain. The pension system in Britain was bankrupt. Let that word sink in for a second. Leverage can never make a bad investment good. Never. Okay. It can, and often does, make a good investment bad. Buying long bonds is not a bad thing. Buying long bonds on leverage into a rising rate scenario is suicide. But the investment bankers, oh, here, we'll give you these derivatives for free. Anything that's free is very costly because they're taking 4% off the top and they're giving it to you at precisely the wrong time. Because guess what? It's easier to sell stuff to people when it's hot, right? It's not easy to sell straw hats in the winter, right? So you got to sell them in the summer. And so when everything's going great, they want to sell you leverage because they're like, oh, interest rates are low. I got this LDI, liability-driven investing. I need to match my assets and liabilities. So I'll lever up. Look, they sold a bill of goods by Ray Dalio and risk parity. One of the dumbest long-term, look, short-term it works, in a falling rate environment, it's awesome, lever up, great. And Ray Dalio is a multi-billionaire, and I'm not criticizing him, but actually I am. But the idea of risk parity in a pension fund and using leverage, they should not shoot. Yeah, 100%. So a couple things to echo. One, June 13th was the bottom. That was the end of crypto winter. Actually, I think I called it on your show when we were on.
Yeah, you did indeed.
And June 13th was the end of crypto winter. Now we're in crypto spring. Crypto spring is not crypto summer. Crypto spring is like spring, right? It's cold some days, it's warm some days, it's windy, it's muddy, it's yucky. So we're gonna have volatility. So we're not gonna have a straight parabola. That starts next summer, which to me is sometime in Q1 next year, leading up to the next halving in the cycle. So that's the first part. The second part is, Joey mentioned the word base. That's my thing, right? Bitcoin, Avalanche, Solana, Ethereum. Everyone should have a base, okay? And you should own the Bitcoin. Here's the thing, Bitcoin, I was on Maria Bartiromo's show a month ago and she said, shouldn't we be buying tech stocks down here? After, I'm like, are you kidding me? Look, tech stocks, despite being down 30+%, some of them down more, like 80, 90, Shopify. People are, oh, Shopify's cheap. Are you joking? It could go down 90% from here and still be expensive, okay? They don't make any money. They don't make money. And the growth story's gone. But my point was, stocks are in the 93rd percentile expensive. They've only been more expensive than they are today, 7% in all of history. Bitcoin has only been cheaper 3% of its history. So in 14 years, Bitcoin's only been cheaper relative to its long-term trend 3% of the time. So you gotta own that. In terms of ETH, I don't like the change. And everyone's like, oh, the merge is great. I'm like, I don't get it. You had proof of work, which made you different. Now you're proof of stake, like all these others, and you're not as fast, and you're not as, so I don't know. I think you made yourself a target. Maybe it'll work out, maybe it won't, but I think Solana, and look, we're
you know what?
Owner. Yeah. I think, no, and I think that's, Joey's exactly right, as always. But my point is just that, look, if you are being attacked, right? So there's all the ETH killers out there. And they all come at it saying, oh, we're faster, or we're stronger, or we're better. Okay, maybe. The problem with Solana, look, we made lots of money in Solana. We own a lot of Solana, still trying to sell it. But here's the thing. It's right 99-ish% of the time. If I'm doing accounting, can't use it. If I'm doing gaming or an NFT or a little glitch in the corner, I don't care, fine, you can use it. So for NFT platform, interesting. The other stuff that's being built on top, and the other place where there's huge value, Uniswap. Uniswap will do 2-ish, maybe 3 billion of revenue this year, and it's trading at 6. The only thing that I'm struggling with is I said, again, publicly, like most things, that, in fact, one funny story. So I'm heading to Vegas for the Web3 conference next week, and I don't go to Vegas very often, but my wife came with me a couple years ago, and she's only seen me speak one time. Got to the end of my talk, and she said, Mark, you can't say things like that. What did I say? She says, no, you say things so forcefully. I'm like, what's wrong with that? She says, well, people will believe you. That's the whole idea. She says, well, what if you're wrong? I'm wrong all the time. I just changed my mind. So the key is that Uniswap has this massive amount of revenue relative to its market cap. The dog coins, I said the bear market will be over when Doge is worth 0, which is what it should be. That was Monday, Tuesday. All it took was an emergency Fed meeting. They didn't even say anything. There was no release. It was just the rumor that maybe the pivot's coming, and you had a face melter, 6% rally. But remember, you will never see an up 4% day in a bull market. Not ever. There's never been one. You only have up 4% days in bear markets, because a bear market is a market that goes down most days and goes up sharply on good news or perceived good news. A bull market is one that goes up most days and goes down sharply on bad news or perceived bad news. So that's where we are in crypto. Okay, we're in the beginnings of a bull market. Goes up most days, goes down sharply on bad news or perceived bad news. And the equity markets are still in a bear market. But Raoul's exactly right. Look, AMD last night did miss badly, like super bad. And they told us that Microsoft's going to miss badly. Anyone who's dependent on PCs is going to get crushed this quarter. So it's going to be ugly. But the point is, we have this phenomenon. I call it the high jump falsification. You take the bar off the rack, you put it on the ground, you jump over the bar, claim you're the high jump champion. So a year ago, company A in the tech says, I'm going to make $1 this quarter. Then 6 months ago, I'm going to make 50 cents. Then last week, oh, I'm only going to make 10 cents. And they report 11. And everybody's, yay, it's a beat. Are you kidding me? No, that's not a beat. Okay, that is a miss by 89 cents. But the expectations issue, everyone's bearish, everybody's in cash. The pain trade is definitely a face melter if the Fed changes direction. Look, and that was the plan. Biden's had a plan to try to save the election, and he's basically being thwarted by the Fed and by Saudi. And the Fed, he had no control over the Fed, right? They're independent, and he can try to jawbone the Fed to do less. But the Fed, for whatever reason, is intent on breaking stuff. And as we talked earlier, the Fed, I believe, is causing the pain, and they're committing one of the worst policy errors in the history of financial markets, right? And you have to go back 180 years to find one worse. I think that's real. And the Saudi thing yesterday is big. Like, we were on our way to $60 oil. We were on our way to sub $3 gasoline. And there, again, pull up the chart. There's an inverse correlation between presidential popularity and gas prices. When gas prices are high, people hate the president. Not necessarily his fault, but, or I guess it could be her, but not necessarily their fault, but they hate him. And so when gas prices go down, people 6,500 people get released from prison. That's not enough votes to save the Democrats. They've tried buying people's student loans, and then they found out that might be illegal, so they're not going to get as many votes for that. Gavin Newsom's trying to buy votes by giving people $1,000 checks. Okay, fine. By the way, that's what dictators do. Dictators buy votes by giving away free stuff. Argentinian free electricity, Venezuelan free stuff. Bad people buy votes with free stuff. So we are a banana republic, and that's why, look, you say Bitcoin and gold. Bitcoin is digital gold, right? There's only been one money in the history of the world, gold. Everything else is currency, it's debt, it's credit, it's not money. Money is an asset that exists in the absence of a liability. There's only one thing in the entire world for 5,000 years, and that's gold. Bitcoin is better than gold. It's more portable and it's more divisible. Therefore, it, I believe, for the next 5,000 years, will be the primary store of value. Now, that's a great use case. And that means it could be a 5, 8, 10 trillion dollar asset, relatively short order. That's fantastic. But then money, right, doesn't have to be currency. Money doesn't have to be fiat that can be devalued by governments at a whim. There have been 775 paper currencies in the history of the world. 3/4 of them no longer exist. Let that sink in. 3/4 no longer exist. The pound sterling is the oldest currency in the world, 380 some odd years. It used to get you 1 pound of sterling silver, hence the name. Now it would take you 174 pounds of sterling silver. And when they were the world reserve currency, back when the sun never set on the British Empire, before they invaded Mesopotamia in 1913, coincidentally, when the Fed was created, it was worth $5 per pound. Today it's sub 1 because they lost world reserve currency status. They incurred a bunch of debt. The pound sterling collapsed. The dollar ascended. We became the superpower. Now the dollar, despite the fact that Dixie is making new highs, the dollar's not going up. What do you mean? Dixie's going up. No, the yen and the euro are going down more, right? That's what's happening with the Dixie. Crazy Kuroda-san has obliterated the yen, obliterated, like 35% this year. The euro, obliterated. The pound, obliterated. It is a race to the bottom, and we are the I'm about to say anything, tallest whatever. And the renminbi is going to be the beneficiary. It will ascend from a reserve currency to the reserve currency. Bitcoin ultimately probably becomes the reserve currency, becomes a reserve currency first, then the reserve currency. But this is all a long-term plan.